Namaskar. Today we would be talking about, again, we are bringing the content back to you. Today's list of topics include India Bhutan relations, what is new, that you can connect in GS2. Has poverty really reduced? It can be related to GS3. As you must have seen that recently there was a news article that appeared that poverty has reduced in India. So we would be dithering how and actually it has been done or not. Third is flare ups in Eastern Congo. It's a part of international relations. If there is another flare up in Eastern Congo, then it can be another challenge in front of the world that is actually dealing with Ukrainian and Israeli conflicts. Fourth is the one nation one election report that is submitted. It can be an overall topic, but GS2, 3 and SA. Why 2? Because it can actually change constitutional structures, etc. Changes in the method of teaching, that is part of the overall GS, and we would be dealing with it as well. So first topic, Prime Minister Modi will travel to Bhutan next week. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Bhutan next week after it was announced that the new Prime Minister Tobgay met Prime Minister in Delhi on Thursday night, means yesterday. He is on a 5-day visit to India, and Mr. Modi is supposed to travel to Bhutan next week. Various, as you know, Bhutan's actually importance for India is huge. Number one, Bhutan's geography stands sandwiched between India and China. That's why it works as a buffer state. Buffer state means that whenever China wants to have any kind of border situations with India, then it has to first deal with Bhutan. Being a buffer state, Bhutan can demand its own sovereignty, and that's why India's Himalayan security apparatus remains intact. India and Bhutan both enjoy unique and special partnerships. India's Bhutan relationship also comes into neighbor first policy as well. As you know, neighbor first is the policy. Bhutan is also a part of SAARC community of nations. Even the greater amount of infrastructural initiatives like BBIN Bharat Bhutan, Bangladesh Bhutan India Nepal initiatives that was also proposed. Bhutan also actually in the energy trade in the sense that the power lines. So Bhutan is also a major partner into that. So Bhutan's importance for India cannot be least important. You see, it is important for security, it is important for our energy purposes, even it is important for the regional organizations, also regional commitments. So Prime Minister's visit to Bhutan can be one of the major regions of good. Mr. Togbay is expected to discuss during his visit in India to strengthen bilateral trade, raising investment levels in infrastructure projects, and Bhutan's plan for a mega Gelfu mindfulness city on Bhutan's southern border with Assam. India is also closely watching Bhutan China talks on boundary demarcations closely as well. As you know, Bhutan does not enjoy diplomatic relations with China, and Bhutan also has lot many boundary disputes with China also. But Bhutan and China has agreed to settle down few of their boundary demarcation flare-ups, and India is closely watching that. That's why energy, climate change, and coordination on further improvements can be a good move on part of India. Now the another topic is Bhutan's opening move, its Gelfu Gambit. In an age where connectivity projects, mega highways, and smart cities are in a fashion worldwide, Bhutan's plan for a regional economic hub. What is Gelfu project? It's a regional economic hub that Bhutan is trying to build. A town bordering Assam in India are on high on Bhutan Prime Minister's agenda in New Delhi this week. This plan was launched by Bhutan's king Wangchuk in December 2023 to build a Gelfu Mindfulness City with a unique Bhutanese architectural blueprints across 1000 square kilometers as a special administrative zone with separate investor friendly laws. So how does it help Bhutan? Bhutan is seeking to get investments through investment friendly laws into this 1000 square kilometer territory. So actually it wants India's help into that. As a carbon neutral city, Gelfu would include not only non-polluting industries, mainly IT, education, hotel and hospitality sectors, but also would be promoted as an investment destination and health and wellness hub in the middle of the region. So for India, because it is near to the Assam borders, number two, India actually has been a partner for Bhutan in its planning commission and in planning also. So if India can help Bhutan to build Gelfo project, it can be a win-win for Bhutan. In that sense, the city is more like a newer global peers, plant cities like Saudi Arabia's Neom. You must know that Saudi Arabia's Neom and Indonesia's Nusantara are also being developed as a financial hub with lot skyscraper buildings in Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, etc. It also lies at the crossroad of India's Act East policy or plan for connectivity to Myanmar and also on the Asian and Indo-Pacific region, as well as new India-Japan connectivity plans between India's northeastern states through Bangladesh to Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean. That's why today's selection of this topic in GS2 is important, because first of all you got to know that why Bhutan is important for India, what are the troubles between India and Bhutan which are nearly as of now, just like China angle. Number third is Bhutan's new project, that is Gelpu Gambit, how it is also trying to galvanize and trying to seek the Indian assistance in this. Being an investment friendly special administrative zone, this Gelfu can work as a greater advantage for India also, because number one, it will require Bhutan to open up its economy into at least those zones with even Indian investors can also invest into that. Number two, it can also add as a gateway to other Asian or Act East also, if that project actually gets successfully executed. Even it can also recast ties for Bhutan as well. When we talk about the condition for a mega smart city with no immediate returns from the investment envisioned for the Gulf project, the goodwill generated by India's generous support to Sri Lanka during economic crisis and steadfast relationship with Bangladesh can be multiplied by similar forays in other directions. So this is one of the huge gamble for Bhutan, but also a potential game changer for the region with help from India. And that's why Prime Minister's visit to Bhutan can be of a greater advantage. We now move on to the next topic, and that is, has really poverty dropped 5% into our country? So as we know, there was a recent report that suggested that poverty levels in India dropped by 5%. Niti Aayog's Subramaniam recently claimed that less than 5% of Indians now live below the poverty line. He made the claims based on the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey data of 2022-23. High consumption expenditure survey data are so important for you to build your answers not only in GS3 but also in essay sections of your answers, because that has so much of in-depth coverage. I will try to bring one lecture actually regarding that also. So Niti Aayog said that average consumption expenditure in the bottom 5% of our population is about the same as poverty levels in India. So this article is trying to dissect whether it has really dropped. So Surjit Bhalla says that we are talking about the change in level of poverty. In 2011-2012, the poverty levels in India was 12.5%. Now it is down to 5%. If you apply the poverty line, which is today's close to rupees 1500, so it is taking the poverty line to 1500 rupees in rural areas and rupees 1800 in urban areas. According to the Tendulkar poverty line, you see in poverty estimations there were lot many committees actually that gave its suggestion. One among them was Tendulkar poverty report, and Tendulkar poverty report talked about 1500 rupees for rural and 1800 rupees for urban areas. Therefore Sujit Palla says that we have moved from something like 12.5% in 2011-2012 to 2% in 2022-2023, and definitely suggests that poverty line needs to be raised around the world. Extreme poverty is what has to be eliminated. If we apply the World Bank's lower middle income line to calculate poverty, we get a poverty level of something around 25% in rural areas and 11% in urban areas, which gives you a poverty rate of close to 21%. That's why they say that poverty lines across the world has to be raised. This 1500 rupees, then 1800 rupees, with which actually Tendulkar poverty line suggests the poverty levels has to be improved, has to be worked upon. Jayanti Ghosh actually talked about that whatever is being used as poverty line today is definitely inadequate, because she said that inadequate in the sense that first of all there are inflationary measures, there is no declared income poverty line right now also. Surjit is using the Tendulkar line adjusted for consumer price inflation, and World Bank's purchasing poverty line is close to $2.15. So World Bank's purchasing poverty line is $2.15 a day, both of which would give you less than 5% extreme poverty or extreme destitutions. However, there is a problem that the Tendulkar line itself was not really conceptually based on anything. It broke away from the idea that you need a certain minimum calorie requirement. You see, in poverty, either we take the poverty line, or if we calculate the poverty line, it can be basis on the rupee, or it can be based on the calorie consumption as well. So they say that Tendulkar line itself was not really conceptually based on anything. It broke away from the idea that you need a certain minimum calorie requirements to be fulfilled, and therefore households that spend at least that much on calories would be above the line. Why calories are important? Because a person requires calorie to fill up his stomach. So in rural areas the calorie requirement will be higher, while in urban areas it will be lower. That's why if if we compare this rural figure for calorie requirements, even the figure of 1500 also can be found lesser, and figure for 1800 can be found lesser also. That's why these experts actually say that Tendulkar's poverty line report actually in itself is inadequate, or on the basis of Tendulkar poverty line, if we are calculating the poverty figures, then it can be not a good idea also. The survey says that consumption expenditure has gone about 2.5 times since consumption expenditure, that is HCES of 2022-23. So this consumption survey talks about that consumption has gone up by 2.5 times, but critics says that incomes had not risen in tandem to collaborate this claim. To answer this question, Surjit Palla says that in nominal terms that is right. Consumption has gone per capita by about 40% over the last 11 years in real terms. So he does not see that the problem with that is. There are other figures that corroborate the claim. Look at the wages. He talks about the wages also. The periodic labor force survey provides that with the data of wages of different workers, for agriculture workers, wages have gone up by 3.2% per year since 2011. Jayanti Ghosh actually on the other hand says that it is unfortunate that we have to keep disagreeing even on data, but there are so many different studies that looked into real wage data and show that real wages have only grown by less than 1% since 2017. So why this article is important? It is not important that it will be asked just like that, but it is important that you can utilize the consumption survey data. You can utilize actually in your answers in GS3 with basis on Tendulkar poverty line. Even actually you can be asked that what are the different things between consumption based calorie based data and the income level data, and on the basis of that how the poverty is determined. So these two things actually you need to take care, and you need to just you can mention this particular line that poverty levels according to Niti Aayog has dropped to 5%, but there are certain things actually which we need to work on. You can write in like this: number one, consumption expenditure data no doubt actually shows that consumption has risen, but there are concerns over income wages rise and concerns over quality employment figures also. So till that time we make people quality employment available and income growth available, this may or may not find actually a good takers also. Even you can mention that India does not officially have a poverty line, and different economists or different committees actually have thrown different figures, in which Tendulkar poverty line talked about income level based poverty, while other poverties were determined on the calorie based expenditures. And as you know, in the times of inflation, the consumption cost have also increased by much. So that's why we need to work upon this one. World Bank's official figure of $2.15 for a poverty figure, we need to work on this, and extreme poverties are what we should desire to eliminate. So you can utilize these many points to further corroborate your answers like that. Now next question, next topic we are talking about, and it is the causes of flare-ups in eastern Congo. We know that right now the world is grappling with Ukrainian crisis and Israeli Palestinian problems. So when we talk about what is happening in the Congo also, then we should take care that renewed clashes in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has sparked global concerns, worsening the humanitarian crisis. You see, whenever there are global conflicts, then it does create a humanitarian crisis relating to either food security problems, energy security problems, mobility issues, and crime against that particular society also. So humanitarian crisis. Fighting between Congolese army and Rwandan-based M23 group intensified around Sake and Nialis, resulting in deaths, displacement, and food security risks. The United States urged both countries to avoid war, calling for Rwanda to withdraw its personnel and missile systems. So the clashes are happening in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo between the Congolese army and Rwandan-based M23 rebels, and that's why it is creating a tension across the globe. The United Nations and several Western countries have also denounced the attacks and called on the M23 rebels to cease their offensive. An unending cycle of violence has encircled the eastern region of Democratic or Central African country for decades, with the conflict originating in two civil wars. In 1994 also, an estimated 8 lakh minority ethnic Tutsis and Hutu moderates were killed by extreme Hutus in 100 days. That is in what is known as the Rwandan genocide. So you must have heard about Rwandan genocide. Rwandan genocide actually in 1994 civil war, an estimated close to 8 lakh minority ethnic Tutsis were killed by extreme Hutus in 100 days even. In subsequent days, around 2 million people crossed the Congolese border to settle in refugee camps in eastern provinces of northern Kivu and southern Kivu as a Tutsi government gained control of Rwanda. So that has a history of its own. Another deadly war followed in 1998 after the new regime ordered Rwandan refugees and troops to leave the country. It feared that Rwanda would join forces with Uganda. The war that followed was dubbed as Africa's World War. So this was in huge magnitude there. Now you will not be asked actually what is happening in Eastern Congo to a major expectations, but yes, you can mention these topics in any of the answers regarding humanitarian crisis across the globe that are happening because of the conflict. Or the question can be asked in the form like, world over the conflicts are growing and world is becoming a unsafer place comment, and in that one you can utilize this particular answer, that what is the situation in Eastern Congo and why it is happening. The new fight actually could also lead to an escalation of regional tensions and involve more countries. The International NGO Forum in Congo says that escalation has involved artillery attacks on civilian settlements, causing a health and humanitarian crisis. There are concerns of a new disaster go unnoticed because of the attention being paid on Gaza and Russia's invasion in Ukraine also. So that was the topic. Now we would be talking about COVID panel's report and about the One Nation One Election. One Nation One Election is an idea which seeks to conduct elections of all the state assemblies and central parliament at the same time. The idea is also that half of the states can be clubbed together with the election cycle of parliament, and half of the elections actually of other states also can happen even in different terms. Suppose say after 2.5 years these two will be going to polls, and after 2.5 years this will be going to polls. But idea is to not conduct election at a particular you see, every year India actually has been having an election cycle of either some states or some union territories or either a central parliament. and that is why all those people who talk about it, or all those people who talk about the pros of the one election one nation project, they say that it will significantly save the resources of the country, because administration, whenever the elections are announced, always remain in the election apparatus. They do not do the administrative work, but they have to contribute, whether these are teachers or these are administrators, they have to contribute to the election cycle, be it a preparation of electoral rolls or other election related duties. So the administration actually goes for a toss. Second problem, they say that because of the continuous election cycle, short term policies are only implemented, long term policy are very very rare, because a government actually will always want that its short term its policy should be looked at short term, and what kind of benefit it can give to the citizens of that particular territory, so that we can win votes of those. So long term policies can also be a trouble into these kind of situations. Number third also can be that if the nation actually remains in always election mode, then there are model code of conduct actually which is applied one way or the other in one territory or the other. And as you know, during the model code of conduct, no developmental projects actually can be announced, no fresh developmental project can be announced into those territories which have the danger to significantly alter the the election results. Number four, so if we can save the country from multiple MCC period timelines, then this kind of developmental challenges can also be addressed. Number four, they say that subsidies and the freebies, those are distributed by one party or the other, also takes a toll on our fiscal health. That's why they say that for fiscal health, it is important that we curb on the subsidies, we put curbs on the subsidies. But there are people actually who are against this one nation one election, and even the proposers also say that when India became independent, before 1967 at least, the country was going on a simultaneous poll exercise. But when the president emergencies actually were imposed under article 356, or different party governments actually started coming into different states, then this particular exercise of simultaneous polls actually went away. Otherwise, before 1967 we were doing one simultaneous polls only. But there are cons also, and people suggest that number one, it can be an advantageous position for all those people who are ruling at the center, because when the center and the state goes on a simultaneous polls, it can work to the advantage of the center, because center party can win. But there are also proposers of the one nation one election, they say that it may not happen also. Like in Odisha in 2019 election, in Lok Sabha, the ruling party of center became one of the largest party, while it actually got defeat in the assembly election, and another party won the election. That's why there are all both these kind of arguments. Another cons actually, these party those are opposing the one nation one election say that because of the continuous election cycles, democracy actually comes into fruition. Why? Because they say that always the leaders and the government will remain on toe and will try to deliver on its promises, but when the elections are actually say 5 years away or 2.5 years away, then they will sit and relax, and it may not be actually working 24/7. So those people say like that. Now you need to take care of how and it can be implemented. You see, it will require constitutional changes, because it is a gigantic exercise that is to be completed. So Kovind panel actually was given, Kovind means former President Ramnath Kovind was given the charge of the chairmanship of this particular commission, and it has given its report to President Draupadi Murmu. Transition to simultaneous polls. Parliament power is to make laws. Parliament's power to make laws. The first bill recommended by the Comit Committee would bring inserting a new article, Article 82A, into the Constitution. This article will establish the process by which country will move to a system of simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and state assemblies. According to committee report, Article 82A1 will say that on the date of first sitting of the House of the People after a general election, the President will issue a notification bringing Article 82A into effect. The date of this notification shall be called the anointed date. Another Article 82A 2 will state that all the legislative assemblies constituted in any general election held after the appointment date shall come to an end on the expiry of the full term of the House of the People. There is another proposed article, that is Article 82A3, and that talks about holding general elections to the House of People and Legislative Assembly simultaneously. So this particular committee has recommended for insertion of new articles 82A in between 82.1, 82A2 and 82A3 I have talked about. However, in cases when the state assembly is deferred, the full term of the legislative assembly shall end on the same date as the end of the full term of the House of People constituted in the general elections. So they have actually put to rest the trouble of this as well. Now we would be talking about the proposed bill that recommends amending Article 327, which gives Parliament the power to make laws relating to elections to Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and state legislatures, including the preparation of electoral rolls and delimitation of constituencies. COVID panel has recommended that the power of Parliament under Article 327 should be expanded to include conduct of simultaneous polls as well. So you need to just write, whenever you are writing a wholesome answer, pros and cons, then you can mention about the constitutional articles also, and these constitutional articles would then actually suffice your answer and will make your answers fully compatible. More terms we can tell, but that cannot be actually a better idea, because GS answers only requires you to move to a particular points. Those are not that difficult to understand. Now another news item that is appearing about the CBSE opting for open class book examinations. The open book examination OBE system simply means teaching, training and empowering individuals to translate theory into practice. So idea is to whatever theory is written, we can provide actually practical experience to students. One may also say that it's a system that protects the basic nature of human things, that is to remain curious and innovative. Open book estimation or examination stands at the frontier of India's educational evolution, signaling a return to our roots of experiential learning. As we have seen that India is accused of rote learning into its educational syllabus, but practice based or pedagogy which is actually practical enough is not implemented in our country. That's why open book examination stand at the frontier of India's educational evolution. It can signal a return to our root of experiential learning as cultivated by ancient sages and encapsulated within our revered texts. जो भी हमारे जो पुराना सिस्टम चलता था उस तरीके का सिस्टम पे वापस लाने की इसको अप्रोच की जा रही है. हम हमारी सिस्टम को थ्योरी की बजाय प्रैक्टिकली टर्म पे ज़्यादा ले जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. दैट्स वाई द ओपन बुक एग्जामिनेशन कैन बी वन ऑफ द एंडेवर. A major precaution in this endeavor is to ensure that the integration of open book examination does not disregard the valuable aspects of the traditional system. The success criteria for this shift would be a balanced education ecosystem that nurtures creativity, critical thinking, problem solving skills with flexibility for mid-course correction based on evolving educational and global needs. So you can write that if open book examinations are introduced, fine. Although this question will not be asked, but you can be asked about what are the educational reforms that India requires, and in that you can always talk about the open book examination approach by the CBSE, how it can be good, but what are the precautions that need to be taken. Just like the selection criteria should be balanced educational ecosystem that nurture both creativity, critical thinking and problem solving with mid-course correction based on evolving and educational global needs. The introduction of open book examination also marks a significant departure from the conventional emphasis on the rote learning. So that can be one of the best way. Even actually, this open book examination can also deal with the paper leak issues, because open book examination means you will be given paper with open books also, but whatever the theory you have to write in practical terms, and it can improve actually the creativity levels of people, the thinking and logical abilities of the students, because at that time only you need to solve the exam question paper. Even in the state of emerging artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning technologies, there is a threat that modernization of the masses can happen with the obsolescence of the current educational paradigm. That's why the goal is to evaluate students' abilities. So that's why they can think critically, apply knowledge creatively, and solve complex problems. So that is why actually open book examinations can happen. But there are those people who say that open book examination can happen, but it has to happen before we promise a revolution in the education system that prepares students not just for challenges of today but for the opportunities of tomorrow. As we embrace this journey, open book examination promises clear to cultivate a generation that is ready to lead with confidence, creativity, but that balances actually and acknowledge the myriad ways that individuals absorb and process information. So that was today's lecture that we have delivered. You see, we are bringing this particular series so you can utilize these answers, these points into your answer building, the data set in your answer building. So that's why gs2, gs3, gs4 answers can become one of the best way. If you feel that you need to give any kind of feedback, then you are free to give us feedback in the comment section. If you like the the video, then you can also hit the like button and share button. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.